Good morning.
Morning. Okay. Welcome to the Central Middle School podcast. Hello, everyone. We're thrilled to have you join us for another exciting episode of the Central Middle School podcast. Today, we have a very special guest with us, someone who has made a significant contributions to the field of education and continues to inspire students and educators alike. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Geri Gillespy. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired by Dr. Oh my gosh, Geri Gillespie's wisdom and passion for education. Let's dive in.
First question, what made you want to get into technology?
So great question. And don't, I've been a teacher for a very long time in education. I was a principal. I'm used to working with students, and all the time they get hung up on my name. So don't even worry. So you can even call me Dr. G. Okay, so make it easy for you. I got into technology. Let's see, I grew up in a town outside San Francisco in California, in the Bay Area, and I had a nickname when I was growing up. And it was when the big computer companies like IBM and that were first developed. And it was called Silicon Valley. And that was the nickname because it's where a lot of technology companies grew. That is where Apple started. And a lot of the companies, even people near and dear, even too, right now I'm at Microsoft, have beginnings early in California and Silicon Valley. And so technology was always around me when I was growing up. But it was different than it is now in how we use technology, because it was more about how we were using it to be able to produce and to create things. And I think now that's where we're getting back to. But I have been involved in around technology since I was very young.
What inspired you to work with technology?
So what I realized, especially when I got into education and teaching, it opened doors for me to be able to see things in other places and for my students to see things in other places. So I have been in education longer than when I was learning how to be a teacher. The internet was just first starting to be public and being able for people to access things. A whole new world, because that meant that I could show my students where, go to museums in New York, and I could show them online things about the ocean or things about history in Europe that we couldn't see when I was teaching in California. So technology helped me open up and let students see things. So like when you're learning things, is it easier when you can see pictures of it or visually see it versus just being able to read about it, right?
I'm a visual learner, so I would say yes.
Yes, exactly. And that's how I use technology. And then also my students enjoyed asking questions and learning more. And that's what I've always been in this for, is about how do we get more learning. And I created, when I used to teach, it was always about how I could make them feel like possible careers they wanted to do when they grew up. So, when I was teaching California, I even had a class who we studied the ocean layers when we were studying about the layers of the earth, and they all became oceanographers. And we used technology and being online to be able to do that and to learn about what that looked like. And then we even went out in the Bay in San Francisco and became oceanographers. So that was always important to me, to be able to have those experiences. And technology helped bridge that gap, because I couldn't do that in the classroom a lot of the ways to be able to do that. So it helped students see things and help them be able to learn things at a deeper level.
What was your goal before getting into technology?
So I've always been a teacher, always been an educator. Even when I was in high school, I was a tutor, and I used to tutor students. I worked for a center called El Toro Youth Center, where I grew up, and I worked with students after school, and I tutored them and helped them with reading and math. And in the summer, I was a director of camps, and we did arts and sports and that too. So I always knew I wanted to be a teacher and an educator. And so technology just became part of that as I was learning how to be a teacher, to be able able to open those doors I talked about. And so it's always been about education first and the learning first. And then technology's just been a tool for me to be able to help do that in a better way, to be a better teacher and to let my students be able to see those things. When I became a principal of a building, I started teaching my teachers how to use it. So we were one of the first schools where I was a principal to bring Minecraft into the classroom. One of my teachers used it to teach the Oregon Trail and understand how the early settlers, they actually created along the way. And it let them again be able to dive into a world and to role play and feel what it felt like to be in that space. So I've always brought in different tools and technology just as something that was driven depending on the learning. It's always been about the learning and what that looks like. And so that has been my the way that I look at technology, and not to have it just to be around and be there. And so I think even when you are in the space right now, when you use technology, it's always got to be there's some kind of purpose or something behind it. And I know even when my own children, they brought it in. They love their video games coming up, but they also learned how to use it when they wanted to learn more about something, when they were curious about things and being able to dive deeper and to get a different look at things. So I think that's the most important thing about and the way that I came about technology was always about the learning first.
How old were you when you got into technology?
Oh my goodness. I started even early. There were computers in our classroom. I actually took a coding class in high school, and I struggled miserably trying to first learn. And I was learning something on a computer language called DOS. Have you guys ever heard of DOS? Yeah, it's an old computer language. And in fact, I think if my computer teacher in high school saw me working for Microsoft right now, he wouldn't believe it because I struggled so much with learning computers. But I started using computers early in school and trying as soon as they were available. But it was different for me just because of my age. So I learned how to type on a typewriter, not a keyboard. And so I think it was more in high school when computers became available. But again, it was only specific classes and labs. And then until I got into college, it then became more prominent that we had computers. In fact, when I first started college, I even had a fancy electric typewriter because computers and laptops just weren't around like they are today. And so as I developed as a teacher and learning and started asking questions and saw more about how technology was evolving and changing, then I could bring it more into the classroom, what I was doing. And so especially when we started being able to dial in and get internet.
What is one way you have seen technology influence the time when you were growing up?
Okay. So I think we ask a lot of the same questions, especially in learning. I would bet your teachers today, and in fact, I'm always challenging students because I know, I mean, look at this podcast. This is amazing. You guys are doing this. And I would ask your teachers as you're going through, ask them what they struggle with technology. And I think all through my career, and I've been in education now. My oldest son turns 30 in a couple weeks, and I've been in education longer than him. So I've been around a very long time. And when I look and I see what's happening, we're still asking the same questions back then that we are now. Do you guys write papers right now in school? Do you write essays in that? Right. So when I was in college, you have to write papers in that. I wrote a paper, a thesis in college, and it was called "If You Gave a Teacher a Laptop." I was kind of making fun of. Have you ever heard that book? If you give a mouse a cookie. Right. So I was kind of trying to be funny with words on that too. And I said, gave a teacher a laptop, and they talked about that. And a lot of the questions were, what can we do with technology and how can we impact learning? And how can we have students have opportunities like this? Like, look at the technology you're using right now. You guys are running a podcast. We are streaming live. We're on LinkedIn. This is all things that are capable for you can see what you're doing, and you're learning so much from this because you could take this and go do your own podcast. You could go on someday and this could be a part of your career. You could be producers or anything that you wanted to. And this is what technology can do. And so, but it's about the idea of the learning behind it. And that's where I still every day ask these questions of how can we use technology to add more, to give students experiences like this so that they can see what it is that they want to do in their own lives, what they want to do that's gonna be a career for them someday, and make them happy and fulfilled with what there's a purpose for why you're learning and what it is that you want to do with your life later.
Was working with technology your dream job?
No, it just always came a part of it. Education is, I ended up at Microsoft because I saw how much the tools that I could use in the platform that I could use could help me be able to be better at my job in education. And that's what I do right now. I work with educational leaders and teachers and systems, and I talk about how the tools at Microsoft can help with their job to make them and amplify. We use the word empower and amplify. What does empower mean to you? If I ask you, if I say that word.
I haven't really thought about it actually.
You said power?
Yeah, empower. What do you think that means to you?
Give courage.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like encourage them. It gives them courage. It gets them kind of power, like understanding how to use it. So that's what we want to do at Microsoft. We want to empower people to be able to do things for themselves and to get the tools they need to do their job in a better way. And so that's what I do. And a lot of what I do is help teachers see how they can use these tools with students, so that if they want to get better at their reading, if they want to improve their math skills, if they want to understand more about how data, where students are, what the stories they're telling them. And, right now everybody's talking about artificial intelligence. How are we using, AI as a partner, as an educator, as an adult? And what does that look like, and how that can help me even, what I'm doing when I'm working with students. So those are the ways right now that I'm working with technology. And that is where I see is being able to help others in education and being able to get just better at what they do, because teachers are amazing and they take on so much. And so any way that we can help them do that, that's why I'm here and doing the job that I'm doing.
Do you think technology has had any cons to society?
Academy night. It was a success.
Well,
We thank Mr.
I think technology is like anything that we use, right? Anything that can be useful, if we use it too much or if we use it in the wrong ways, it can be harmful to anything, right? If we think about anything, that's good. Too much of something, or not using it the way it's supposed to be used or intended, or using it to harm, then yeah, it definitely is something that can not do it. It can do harm more than good, but it also can do good if people are balanced in how they use it and purposeful. I always tell people that you want to be intentional, meaning you want to have a reason for why you're using your technology. There should be something on the end. So like right now we're using technology in this podcast, right? And the purpose is to share the story, to have people learn about different conversations. Can you think of things that you've learned through this podcast from people that you've interviewed throughout?
Are not permitted to use
Oh,
the restroom.
wow,
The restroom in the
there's
main
a
hall.
whole bunch.
Attended staff and students. The math center was open April 14th through May 9th. Our math testing is
Honestly, I kind of forgot. There's like been a whole bunch that was
Of-
interviewed, so I can't really like remember like a specific one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do know there has been.
But you could tell you've learned a lot, right, through this experience and different people, right? And so that's when we have a purpose for technology, and there's always a deeper side that we want to see and be able to use it. So I do think that technology supports society. I think it is good for society to go forward. But I also think that we have to learn how to use it in the right way. We have to be responsible. We have to look at privacy. We have to be secure. We have to make sure that we are putting safety first, and we're putting those privacy issues first, and we're trying to be
Today's the last day.
good stewards in the way that we use it. We've got to be responsible citizens, right? Since you started school, I'm sure you've heard from all your teachers about how to be a responsible citizenship and how and ways to be able to at school and being respectful and making sure that we're looking at all those different ways. That's especially near and dear to where the people that I work with and especially educators around is that we want to make sure that we're looking at all those ways and how we're being safe and we're being responsible and we're looking at when we use technology, because when we do use it that way, it has great impact and it does a lot of good for society.
Oh, your turn.
Yeah. Where are you from?
All right. Well, I'm from I grew up in California. I first started learning how to teach in California, and mostly around San Jose, San Francisco, and then I moved near Sacramento area, and I taught there. And then my husband got a job in Idaho, so I moved to Idaho and I taught and worked outside Boise, Idaho, which is the capital of Idaho, for a long time. And that's where I was a principal. I was an instructional coach. That means I helped teachers with science and math. I was an administrator in technology. I helped the whole district learn how to use technology. I helped students in all the schools that I worked with in the largest school district there in Idaho, and helped everyone be able to use technology in a way that supported their learning. And I had a team that went out and taught teachers how to use technology. And then also we trained students. We actually created classes in our middle schools and our high schools for our students to learn the technology, to teach teachers how to support technology. And then they even worked for us in the summer. And that program is still going on there. But now I am, since I'm at Microsoft, I'm actually in Redmond in Washington. And that's where Microsoft's headquarters are. And so that's where I'm at right now. I'm in Washington State. In fact, today I'm getting ready to go on to campus because it's our 50th year celebration. But that's where I'm at right now. I travel a lot for my job. So I'm usually a lot all over the country. But right now, mostly I go back and forth between Idaho and Washington.
What are ways that you've seen technology influence students' education?
Well, I have seen, and I've been part of and been very lucky to be part of a lot of programs and a lot of different grants where students were able to use technology in ways for learning, like we talked about earlier, in being able to learn more about different places, be able to do productions. I was involved in a project where students were learning about urban farming and learning what that means is they were learning how to build gardens and create gardens within cities. So that, a lot of times it's hard to go and have a garden when you're in the middle of a city. So where can you find some empty spaces to build gardens in a city? And so we were using images of Minecraft to be able to build what that looks like, and then go in and actually build those gardens within the cities. That was a great way. I was in projects with students who were in high school, learning how to become student tech teams and also ambassadors for different programs where they were learning how to use different applications in Microsoft for to communicate, to write college letters and resumes, and then also learning how to present information and to share so that they could go out and work for the schools over the next year and supporting others using the different technology that they had. So I see technology as a way for students to learn about career skills and about themselves and where they'd like to go. Do you guys like to play video games?
I do.
You do, right? Do you know what video games, do you know what Microsoft creates, right? Usually when I say I work for Microsoft, students ask me about Xbox, right? Xbox comes from Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
Do you know that there are over 400 different careers around a video game that they create when they create video games in Xbox and that too?
No.
I didn't know.
Isn't that amazing? So that's how I look at technology, is how can students see what they're interested in, because it could lead to other careers that they don't know about. And so that's where we need to be able to be open and, again, be purposeful, because we want to be safe. We talked about being proactive and not having technology harm, but we want to be able to have students have those opportunities to learn. So,
what advice can you give to the younger generation?
advice for now is the time. We've got to put our thinking caps on. There is a lot of information out there, and some of it is not true. Some of it is, things that are put out there that are not reliable. We have to start putting it. When I was teaching, and I taught in middle school, and a lot of times I taught middle school world civics, and I taught world history, and I taught math. And I used to tell my students all the time, you've got to put your thinking caps on and look at that, especially in math. When you're working on a math problem and you can't quite figure out where you went wrong, and you're trying to find where you might have did some multiplication or addition wrong, or that too. We're in that space now with technology, that there's so much information out on the internet, in our social media, things that are coming out even now with AI that's out in the world. We have to be able to look and see what we can tell is real and not. So we have to be able to understand what our reliable source is, where the information's coming from, be able to ask those critical questions. So anything that I tell young people, and I tell my own children, my students, even as a building leader and a systems leader, I've always told them we've got to step back. I always say it's like stepping back and trying to look at the whole picture, and try and make sure that first we understand and ask the questions, but we've got to start really looking at what's out there, and not always trusting what we see at first. We need to look at the sources and understand what's happening there.
How does artificial intelligence work?
Well, artificial intelligence has been around for a long time. It's just been in different forms. And so it's similar to, let's look at the cell phone, right? Do you guys, when we look at the mobile phone, like when we look at a cell phone, the first cell phones do not look anything like the cell phones today, unless we go retro, right? Unless we kind of pull them back, but they look really different, right? So technology grows, and it gets more advanced, and it gets more capabilities, it gets more features and function things that it can happen. That's what's happened with artificial intelligence. There's been different kinds of what they call machine learning, where it takes all this data, it can take things all at once and be able to get answers and find solutions. So have you guys ever used like a spreadsheet, like an Excel sheet or a Google sheet or that, and like put in numbers and had to add up columns or that at any time? Okay,
Yep.
right? So you know how you can put all those numbers in, you can hit one button and it adds it really fast, right? So what it's doing, it takes all that data really fast and is able to compute it. And so that's where we've got all of that types of machine and technology that is advancing so much. We're now in a space where we have something that's called generative artificial intelligence, or generative AI. And that means that it takes all that information that's been out there, and it's been kind of machine learning, like Siri. Have you been, when you're on your Apple phone, or if you have anything, have you ever heard of like Alexa on Google, when you talk to Alexa and that too, right? Questions, or when you're trying to find something on your maps in your phone, that's always been there. That's artificial intelligence there. But we're now in a space where we've had new technologies that have come out, like we've got Microsoft, we have Copilot, and these different types of generative AI models and tools. What they're doing is they're taking all this data and these information, and they're generating new information. They're taking new information and putting it out there. And so that's why I said, when you said, what would be your advice for young people, is that's why I said we have to put our thinking caps on, is because we have to look at this new information and see what's being produced, because sometimes it might not be right. There might be some falsehoods in it, because it might be reading the information wrong. It might have got a bad source in there. And so we have to know enough to be able to look at information and decipher and to determine and to be able to see if it went wrong the wrong way. And so I think AI is an amazing tool that's going to support people in what they do and amplify their work, because sometimes, a lot of times in my own work, when I would be looking at different types of information so that I could help my school, like if I was looking at different schedules or things to help students, and those a lot of times would take me hours and days to have to work with people to do, I can now do a lot faster. But I have to also remember to be safe and to make sure that I'm being private how I'm using that information. And I even have to look and make sure that that information is accurate. So that's how artificial intelligence, it's going to continue to evolve and grow and be different. But I can tell you, as you are growing in your life, that's one thing that I would give you advice on, is to make sure, even as you go through and you see any of these tools, you're keeping that thinking cap on and looking at the answers that you're getting. A lot of times when I'm working with teachers, I tell them it can be their cognitive partner, meaning their thinking partner, right? Someone that, how you've worked at partners at school, you have that partner you've got a project on or that you're working with, right? Oh, and when you have that partner, if you're doing all the work, does it feel like you had a good partner in your work? I mean, what kind of partner do you want when you're working?
Someone that thinks like me, someone that puts in the same amount of time, and I don't know.
Exactly, right? And so it's that same point. We have to remember that when we're using any kind of artificial intelligence, we have to put in the same work. We have to put in the same time. So we have to make sure that we're looking at how we're using it, and that we're not using it in harmful ways, and we're looking at the information that we're getting from it. That's exactly it.
Is it true?
Yes, my name. Do you own your own company? And if so, how did you get started?
Okay. At one point, I was a founder, and I helped start a startup company. There is an AI company that I worked for and that I worked with. An amazing AI engineer, and he wanted a company that would keep kids safe. And so I was a consultant for him because I know so much about learning and education. And so I went through that process in helping him. I do not own my own company right now. I actually work at Microsoft. And so I help educators and leaders in that too. But I have been through that phase of trying to see a company. They call that a startup. That's what it was called, and that's when they're trying to start a company that you're trying to grow in that business, and try to get other people to help you invest money and help grow that company. And so that company is doing well, and I was happy to consult and be a part of it and help it. But I'm in a different role now and capacity, and being able to help educators on a larger scale, so that I can help them all over the world and have conversations to help them, just the way that your teachers and the people that you work there are helping you.
What steps would I have to take to work at Microsoft?
Oh, great question. Well, you'd have to, first of all, figure out what you love. That's what I tell people. And even my own children who are working now and graduated from college and in their jobs. And I even have one of, in fact, my daughter right now, she's working at a Disney college program. She's in Disney World because she loves Disney. And so, and she's working there right now. And so I always told my children, and everything I've told my students, is find what you love. So my first thing to you would be find what you love. And so if you love the work and the different ways, that maybe possibly that Microsoft has and supports and industries, there are so many amazing people and talented people at Microsoft doing all different kinds of roles and capacities. There are people who do writing. There are people who develop video games. There are engineers. There are computer scientists. There are people in security. There are people in marketing. There are people that are artists, and anything and everything. So my first thing would be find what you love. And then when you find what you love, learn all that you can about it. Learn as much as you can as far as how to use it, how to apply it, be creative with it. Don't be afraid to take risks and try and use it different ways. But find out what you need to be able to learn about that. Not every career that we have requires going to a typical university or that. There's lots of ways, be it through special programs and certifications in that, to get to what it is that you want to be able to do. So it's finding that one thing that you love to do and you're interested in, and then finding out, how do I make money at this? How do I make a career in this? And there's a lot of places, I know, if you can find out resources in your high school, in your school, even now in your middle school, and ask, I'm sure, your teachers, and say, I'm really interested in this career, or I like to do this. What are careers I can do around this? That's the first question. And then you find that path of what you need to learn to be able to do that in the real world, because it comes about doing. So right now, you guys are doing the podcast, right? You're not just reading about it in a book. You're not just, pretending like it would happen. You're actually doing it in real life. So it's all those steps you would take to be able to do something in real life. And the more you do that, the more you're going to be ready to have a place like that. And then you start looking at companies that fit your mission, what you believe in. I believe in the mission of Microsoft. I believe in what we do. I love coming to work every day. So that's another piece of it. So wanting to work for a company or that's also important, in making sure you know what they're about, what you want to do, and then you go through that same process of looking for a match to what it is that you want to be, and apply and go through. But it's a lot of hard work. But I would say, first, find that thing that you love to do.
Okay, well, that's all the questions we have for you today. We're making an outro. Think of something really.
Yeah. So can I ask you, how do you guys use technology today?
I use it to, just like on our cell phones, or
Anytime, any kind of technology.
I use technology to help me with my homework sometimes. Help me cook, because I like baking stuff.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Well, for me, I mainly use technology to play games.
Yeah. You like video games? Amazing. When you go out, when you go home to, like, over this weekend, right? Because today's Friday, right? Yeah. When you go out this weekend and you're around, I challenge you, look around the world. Like, look at the grocery store, look at anywhere you're at. If you go out to eat, if you're even outside, even in your house, look at all the things that technology is around, or help create, or produce, or made, and you'll be amazed about where you see technology and where it's at, and it's everywhere. So that's why it's so important that we understand and learn about it, not only how we use it, but that we learn about it. So, all right. Did I answer all your teachers' questions too? She said she had a question. She's got.
Okay, they answered the question, but I got another question.
Yes.
So last year,
Yes.
you were part of the innovation showcase at ASU-GSB.
I was for an idea for there. I did. We were a finalist for ideas. We were.
So this year we're a finalist because of this podcast.
Yay! I'm going to be there.
Awesome. So wait to see you.
I want a picture. I'm going to be there. So
okay, absolutely. So give me some advice. What advice do you have when you go up on that stage and you have to pitch?
Well, I got nervous when I had to pitch, because you only have a certain amount of time. But I would say, hit on, and these experiences, these types of programs and projects that you have, exactly what I said in this interview, this is the type of learning that you can't replace. Like, they will remember this forever, and they'll constantly be thinking about what they learned through this and how they get to that next step. So it's those hitting those points of why this makes a difference really quickly. But I can tell you that, and practice saying what you're going to say. I think, is it a minute that you get? How long is it? Is it 3 minutes?
A minute.
1 minute, right? Yes. Practice what you're going to say in that minute, and just hit home that this is something that is replicable, and it's scalable, and these students can get so much out of it, and being able to do this, and others too. It doesn't just impact these students, it impacts so many others, because the people that can watch this podcast later and learn from this and be able to replicate these kinds of experiences.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Gillespy. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, and I will see you there. I'm excited.
Yes, me too. Awesome.
And I can tell you that idea that we won for is going forward in ways too, and it's getting bigger and greater. So that's why we even put it in. That's what we wanted. So
Nice. Awesome.
Awesome.
We'll have to bring you back.
yeah,
See how that goes.
anytime. Thank you guys, and remember, look for all that technology this weekend. I can't wait to hear, because I'll check in after with your teacher, see what you find out. So
Okay.
It was
No
great
problem.
having you.
Thank you.
See you later. Yeah.
All right.
That's great.
Yeah, perfect. Good job, guys. Y'all did that. Y'all did a great job.